Hello YouTube, this is Sam Gerrans from Qur'anite.com. Today is Tuesday the 2nd of November 2021 and I want to press on with my series of expositions of the surahs between Surah 50 and 114. So today we're going to jump in and have a look at Surah 83. Let's see, make sure we can see that. I hope we can. Woe to the unfair traders, those who, when they take measure from men, take in full, and when they give them by measure or give them by weight, cause loss. Now, there's the direct meaning of this, of course, which is, you go into a shop to buy something and they don't quite give you the full measure. You say you want to buy, 5 pounds of apples and they only give you 4. But there are other ways of doing this, and for example, usury would be one way of doing this, where you don't really get what you're paying for. In fact, you never really get what you're paying for, especially if you buy something on hire purchase or those sorts of usury-based schemes. But there are other ways of doing it. Inbuilt obsolescence. And if you look at it, our entire system is built on this. In the 1940s or the 1930s and even 50s, if you bought something, you actually bought it. If you bought a suit of clothes, it was designed to last a long time. If you bought a pair of shoes, they were real shoes. Now pretty much nothing is real. I mean, you can still buy some real stuff from specialist producers, but it's a completely different price range. Most of what you buy is, you're not really buying it, you're just renting it for a while. It doesn't really exist. Now all of our so-called leaders are currently off to a big so-called climate change conference. What they're really doing there is they're designing the next part of the tyranny, which is going to be you paying for less and less, more and more for less and less forever. And they're going to use the mythology, and it is a mythology, of the environment, which is really kind of a god, isn't it, Gaia, to justify this. There isn't much new under the sun. If you read a little bit of history, you don't have to read an awful lot. You find that it's the same things, we're basically on a treadmill, a cycle, and you go through this cycle. Well, we're now in the collapse part of the cycle. My view is that the people at the top of this understand this, and they understand the cycle, and they understand that you can either wait for it to happen or you can make it happen. I think we're really at the point where they're making it happen. But all that to say that you won't be getting any of the things that you've paid for. I mean, I used to say that in countries like, so for example, Sweden, you have vast taxes. They just tax you to death in Sweden. But you do kind of get it. You get some of the services, or at least you used to. I don't know what it's like there now. In countries like Egypt, you don't pay for it, but you also don't get it. But in countries like Britain, you pay for it and you still don't get it. Well, I think this is going to be the model. The British model, I think, is going to be rolled out everywhere. So you pay for it, but you pay more and more and more, and you get less and less and less. You may have noticed, if you have any dealings with the world, which all of us do, that the new justification on the block is the dreaded magical mystery virus, which is out there, sort of like a kind of a new world demon, creating its evil, and you're supposed to believe in this mythology. Nothing works because of it. So again, this is going back to the actual subject. This is a form of the same sort of thing. When they take measure from men, take in full, but when they give them by measure or give them by weight, cause loss. You can believe they'll always take their full measure from you. They're always going to want to get their pound of blood from you, or pound of flesh, as it were. But they don't give it. You don't get what you pay for. So what I'm trying to say is that the application of this is very broad. It's not just going into a shop and somebody giving you, shortchanging you, or somehow giving you a little bit less than you paid for. There are many ways of doing this, sort of open ways and obfuscated ways. And our entire system is based upon, or has this method baked into it, and it's going to get an awful lot worse. So to continue, do those not think that they will be raised to a tremendous day A day men will stand before the Lord of all creation. No, indeed. Now I'm just going to stop at this no, indeed. Kalla. If you go to my work, which you can find, I think the easiest way to find this would be at reader.quranite.com. Go to this verse, and if you open it, there'll be a little blue marker, and you click on that, it'll take you to another verse automatically, which lists all the instances where this kalla occurs in the Qur'an. It's a logistical marker as well as having its own sense, its own meaning. I've been through every single one of these and compared them, and you that work's been done for you, but you just have to click on a couple of buttons. So, but that's where, I'm not going to go into that now, but that's where that is. And it says, the writ of the licentious is in Sijjin, and what will convey to thee, let's just make sure we can see this, I hope we can, and what will convey to thee what Sijjin is. And this is a convention throughout the Qur'an. It says, and what will convey to thee. And then what follows it is an explanation, what can make thee know. So the recipient of the Qur'an himself didn't know this, and the Qur'an itself fills in that detail. Okay, and we have this convention many times in the Qur'an. He didn't get it from hadith, he didn't get it from so-and-so told so-and-so told so-and-so. He didn't just mystically, Yoda-like get to know it because he was sort of the wellspring of all knowledge. No, according to the Qur'an, he didn't know anything except what he was given. He didn't follow anything except what he was given. Well, here's an example of this extra information being given to Muhammad, the recipient of the Qur'an, in the Qur'an, and this is one of the conventions by which this happens. And what would convey to thee what Sijjin is, and then it tells you. Hold on, just hope you can see this. I'm actually just why I'm moving this book around. I've been staring at a computer screen now for so long, like so many of us, that I can only actually focus at precisely about 90 centimeters away. Anything that's less than that or further than that, I need different types of glasses for. So I can't actually see the book in front of my eyes. I'm sort of guessing that it's in focus, and there's a camera here, so it's all quite complicated. So anyway, I hope that you can see it as we go through. And what will convey to thee what Sijjin is, and then it tells you, this is what I'm saying, and gives you what it is. A writ inscribed. Okay, it's a writ inscribed. So what does it say? Woe that day to the deniers, those who deny the day of judgment. Oh, that's what it says. I see. Woe that day to the deniers, those who deny the day of judgment. So this is the central point of this thing. And who are deniers? Deniers are the people that we've just been talking about. These are deniers. It doesn't matter what they say, it doesn't matter what their religion, what they claim. And if you go to the ruling elites, they claim to be virtuous. I mean, these guys, they think they're following they've got various paths, but a lot of them belong to various orders which delude them, and they are deluded into thinking that they are. Firstly, I think they think they're immortal. I think they think that they're Olympians. They're above, anything, any moral recompense. They believe that. They actually believe it. They wouldn't do what they do if they didn't believe that. They also follow Plato. They're big fans of Plato. This idea of the guardian class and the natural rulers and so on. And to be honest, there is something to that. I don't have a problem with there being a ruling elite whatsoever. It's a natural order. I kind of agree with a lot of their analysis. The problem is that they're leading people to hell. And that we have examples in the Qur'an of righteous leaders. The idea of leadership, it doesn't have to be a leaderless society. That's not what we get in the Qur'an at all. Sulaiman is a righteous prophet and leader, but if you want somebody who isn't a prophet, then Dhul Qarnayn, he's not a prophet, he's not a messenger, he's just a leader. But he's a righteous leader. He leads righteously. He rules righteously. So the idea that, a lot of people have the idea that, especially after the Industrial Revolution, where everyone's deluded out of their minds. In the Middle Ages, if one had a place, they knew where they came from. If you were a cobbler's son or a blacksmith's son, chances are you'd be a blacksmith, and so would your son. And not everybody believed themselves to be Kim Kardashian or, what's that little twerp's name? I can't remember, Berber, one little singer guy. whoever it is, people were what they were. Now people are, they think being normal is an insult, that everyone is, is unique in every single regard, but they're not unique. In fact, very few people are, and thankfully so, otherwise it would be impossible to live. Who would drive the trams? Who would get the jobs done? It wouldn't be possible to have a society. Anyway, all that to say that, we're living in a time now where people aren't, they're not really comfortable with just having their place and being ruled. And our rulers also are miscreants. This is the point I'm making now. Sure, you could say that, well, they've been miscreant through society. Well, yes, there have been bad rulers in history, rather, but there have been good rulers as well. Now what's happened is that all of the ruling classes across the world have basically homogenized into a single organism against you. If you haven't worked it out yet, that's what's happened, okay? When we were going through the Cold War, it was a sort of them and us. Obviously the same people were controlling both sides, that's obvious, but that was the kind of dynamic. They were bad, they were over there, we're good, we're over here. Then the Cold War supposedly came to an end. The Berlin Wall came down, and then it all sort of merged into one. So now we had a new enemy. So who's the new enemy? Well, the new enemy had actually been set up before this. The new enemy was going to be the Mujahideen and Al-Qaeda and all of these people, set up and paid for by the very people who gave you the previous war scenario. Well, now that's kind of broken down as well. It's changing, morphing into something else. So who is the new enemy now? Oh, it's you. It's you. You're the enemy. If you don't worship government enough, you're the enemy. See how it works? It's very clever. And the people at the top of this, they own that one and they owned the one before. But I'm trying to say is there have been decent rulers in the past. They have existed, and the Qur'an has examples of them. So my argument isn't that they shouldn't exist. What I'm doing and what I'm trying to do is call them to fulfill their obligations of noblesse oblige. That's really what I'm saying. If you are a ruler, it's not just that might is right. Might comes with obligations, and they have gone off the plantation of their obligations. And what they're doing now is they think that they don't need you anymore, because all the work's been done. The bogs have been cleared, the roads have been built, all the hard, nasty work, which they're not going to do, has been done. And now they don't need you anymore. So now you're just useless eaters. So how to get rid of you all? Well, it's quite obvious the way to do it is you need some new gods, because it has to be sacrificed. There isn't much new under the sun. So now they're going to sacrifice to this kind of creepy crawly virus, which may or may not exist to some extent, who knows. And the next thing which they're going to merge this with is going to be the god of the environment. That it's our fault that these things are happening. Not that it's usury. If you really wanted to get to the root of why of the wrongs in the world, it's the actual root is usury. If you don't know this, in the Qur'an, there's only one instance where the recipient of the Qur'an is told to announce or pronounce war against anybody, to start a war with anybody, and it's against believers. It's against believers who continue to practice usury. That's the only time. There is no other where there's a unilateral war. It's the only time. It's that bad. And you get these people, that I can't remember their name, that kind of Gollum-looking little girl that they keep wheeling around the place, and who really is a kind of like a Yoda type. This kind of, if you look at mythologies, you have it in Star Wars. She's sort of, an updated, feminized, really nasty sort of mutant kind of Yoda sort of supposedly sort of person. And this keys into archetypes that we have within us. They know it's read what's he called, Joseph Campbell, the hero of the thousand faces. They know how to program you with archetypes. This has all been done before. This is very well known. Well, what I'm trying to say is they're doing some more of this, and the justification, because now they've got you used to sitting at home and obeying, receiving a text on your telephone, waiting for the next horrible thing that they're going to do to you. Now they've got the population trained on all of that. They're not going to lose the motive, the sort of momentum of this. They started with 9/11, having you bend over and having to take your belts off if you want to get on a plane and stuff. Well, this is herd training, a bit like a bit like municipal art. If you go to any city centre, they're all kind of the same. They've got the same stuff. These are designed, and they're designed with social programs in mind. They're designed to make you feel and think a certain way. And, you think, well, how can that be? Because they're all pretty much the same. Yeah, they are, aren't they? Isn't it amazing? You go to any city in the world, and I used to travel a lot in my job, and you find the same things being rolled out all over the world. No smoking, can't smoke. These are the same people doing the chemtrailing and trying to kill you, before you get out of the womb, jabbing you full of stuff. They're really concerned that you don't smoke. Isn't it amazing? You start to feel there must be something good about smoking. They wouldn't be doing this. But no, you can't smoke anywhere in the world. What's the other thing they started doing? Those silly bikes everywhere. They're training you. They're training the scooters, you know what I mean? They're training you to get used to the fact that you're not going to own your own means of transport. It's all programming, the whole thing. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that they're getting more and more and more out of you for less and less and less and less and less, and keeping you in this kind of bubble of indoctrination. And what they are is the unfair traders, and they are, in my opinion, they are Al-Jinnah. They are the domini, as I translate them in my translation, as opposed to Al-Ins, which is you, me, everyone else. We're not part of the ruling elite. The ruling elite now have my sole objection, my sole accusation to the ruling elite is that they've gone off completely off the plantation of their natural obligations to the people that they rule, and ruling is natural. A slight anecdote: when in one of my various manifestations in my working life before I did this, I worked for an investment bank, and I was in Monaco, I think, at one of these. I hated it. It was part of what broke me, to be perfectly honest, being around these sorts of people. It's part of what brought me to my own repentance. I wasn't a huge expert on this subject, and I actually hated all of it. But I remember this conversation with this guy, and he was I was telling my son this yesterday. He was a wealth management expert. That kind of word kind of sticks in my craw now. But his job was, he didn't have his own money, but he was certainly part of the investment class, and that was it. That's what he did. He managed high net worth individuals' dosh for them because they want to make more, and that's what he did. But that was his life. He was just completely kind of embedded in that life. And it was late. We were sitting out having a conversation. I think he was Swedish. But in the conversation, I realised he had absolutely no connection with his own people. He didn't care about Sweden at all. He certainly didn't care about the Swedish people. And his allegiance was to his own caste across the world. People like him. So that was very interesting for me, because it made me realise that, I mean, he wasn't elite. He was just a gopher's gopher, as it were, but still closer to that sort of that area than most of us get most of the time. And that opened a window to me. And the more time I spent around people, higher up the totem pole than him, I realised that this is true. They have, generally speaking, they have absolutely no interest even in their own, what you would think is their own kin, their own countrymen. They don't care about them. They'll sell them all down the river, and they don't even regard it as that. They don't regard it as treachery. They don't feel any connection. Many of them went to schools, international type of schools. They are inculcated into a very particular worldview. So it's not like they're lying up awake at night, tossing and turning and regretting what they've done to their country, wringing their hands. No. They don't give it a second thought. They think you're morons. Maybe you're not even morons, but they don't feel any connection, no more connection with you than the most of us feel with Eskimos. That's it. And I realised that this was true for him. And so you have this entire caste which is organically inculcated into their own mythologies, and ripping you off, this is the point I'm trying to get to, is just what they do. Whereas before, if you had under open feudalism as opposed to kind of covert feudalism, there was some sort of give and take between the lord and the serfs, and some sort of mutual dependency. What's happened now is they don't need you, and they reckon that they've got you, and that they can create an endless tyranny forever, and that most people are too stupid to realize until it's too late, and that's what this is all about, and they think they're right. And in my view, absent an act of God, they are right. They usually are. They don't make a move unless they've done their research, and they don't need brains of that type because they can just buy them. And the whole university environment now is either pointless, which is just laughably stupid, and all it's there to do is get you in debt and inculcate you into idiocy, or it's totally supine and dependent upon them because they control all of the grants and all the rest of it. So they've got the whole system sewn up, which is why now they're going to the next stage of the tyranny. Anyway, I don't mean to depress people, but what I'm trying to say is, firstly, that these people, they are now of that type. What it says here about those who, just to recap, the unfair traders, they are unfair traders. Everything about their transaction with you is unfair. And so what I'm kind of talking about further down applies to them. Anyway, let's continue. Verse 11, those who deny the day of judgment, and none denies it save every sinful transgressor. And when our proofs are recited to him, he says legends of the former peoples. And that is what they say. And I'm not just talking about the ruling elites here. You know, when you explain the Qur'an, or you show the Qur'an to people, to many people, to a large extent, even to professing Muslims, they will say these are legends of the former people and hold on to something else. So this isn't a criticism, this is an observation. It's just a way that you can know who these people are. No, indeed, the truth is what they earned conquered their hearts. No, indeed, from their Lord that day will they be veiled. Then will they burn in hell. Then will it be said, this is that which you denied. So this is where they're going. It says in the Qur'an, you should not envy or be disturbed when you see the workers of evil, going to and fro in the earth. Just on that note, the things they make you do, like the bending over and stuff, and it's obviously getting a lot worse. I haven't been on the plane now for 2 years, but I know that they require more and more abjection from the people getting on planes. Just to say, they don't do that. I have experienced sort of elite flying just through my work several years ago now, before I started this. Just so you know, the people who are making these laws, they don't have to abide by any of them. They absolutely don't. I know, because I've been on planes with these sorts of people. They don't have to. If you go on a private jet, okay, with a high net worth individual, it goes like this. It's a separate airport. First of all, they don't go to the horrible kind of mucky, dirty airports that everyone else has to go to. There are separate, smaller airports just with private jets. You turn up, you get out, they offer you a cup of tea, you sit down for a few minutes, they ask you if they could possibly have a look at your passport, you give them their passport, they bring it back to you, you get up, and you get on a plane. You literally walk across the tarmac up the steps onto a plane, fly away, and that's it. But this is how the people who are making these laws live. Okay, they don't abide by these laws. Anyway, to continue. Then will they burn in hell. Then will it be said, this is that which you denied. So that's where they're going. So there's no point in envying these people. They have their time, they have their little, their little luxuries, and they are nice. Is it nicer to fly on a Gulf Stream than it is, packed into coach with hundreds of screaming children and all the rest of it. Yeah, sure, it's nicer, but compared to the rewards of the garden, no, all of this is going to sort of fade into insignificance, and but it seems important at the time. But as we know, when we awake on that day, it's going to seem as if this life was just a few minutes, half a day, not even a day. So anyway, people sell themselves at their price. Many people give themselves away for free. At least you can say for the ruling elite, these Satanists, and they are Satanists, I think. At least they're setting themselves a decent price. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it, but most people just give themselves away for pretty much nothing. The shaitan will buy you at your own assessment. That's one thing I have seen. Okay, to continue. No, indeed, the writ of the virtuous is in Illiyyun, and what will convey to thee what Illiyyun is. So this is the same convention, you see, and what will tell you, what will teach you, what will show you what this is, and then you get the explanation of what it is. A writ inscribed, to which bear witness those brought near. Okay. And so what does it say? Well, it says the following: the virtuous will be in bliss upon couches looking on. So that's our promise. God willing, if you hold to it, that's what you've got. Which do you want? Do you want to be in hell, or do you want to be in bliss? I've had enough hell in this life. I've kind of, I'm up to here with it. So I know where I stand on it. Upon couches looking on, thou wilt recognize in their faces the radiance of bliss. They will be given to drink of a wine sealed, whose seal is musk, and for that let aspire those who aspire. So if you want something to go for, if you want something worth having, if you want something that's really good, go for this. The Qur'an is giving us these are the goals. This is what's worth having. So it'll tell you this is the great success. This is it. If you want something good, go for this one. And thou wilt recognize in their faces the radiance of bliss. They will be given to drink of a wine sealed, whose seal is musk, and for that let aspire those who aspire, and its mixture of Tasnim. And it'll tell you what Tasnim is. A spring whereat drink those brought near. Now, the idea of those brought near is a frequent Quranic motif. For an example, Pharaoh, when the sorcerers come to Pharaoh, it's one of the things he offers them. He says, "And you will be of those brought near," and it says of there are the three different types, and those brought near are people who are at the inner circle. Let's put it that way: the inner circle, closest to the sovereign. If you want to talk about actual privilege, this is real privilege, the really privileged ones. To continue. A spring whereat drink those brought near, those brought near, full stop. Those who were lawbreakers laughed at those who heeded warning. And ain't that the truth? I mean, to follow this book right now, and what does it say? When our proofs are recited to him, he says, legends of the former peoples. Sure, they laugh at us, sure. But they haven't got anything. What they've got is dying. The ruling elites, lots of them are terrified. I'm absolutely certain of it. I don't believe that they're just one homogenous group that just agree on everything. I mean, they are a group in the sense that I described earlier, but I think a lot of them have reservations about how quick this is all going through. And a lot of them are being threatened either overtly or covertly. And by the way the elites threaten each other, it's not like, we're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. That's kind of brutal. It's more like you'll be taken out to dinner at some very nice restaurant, and people will sort of frown at you in a way that you'll understand that you need to get on board with whatever it is. But there are people there, and they're not happy with the way it's going. But it won't make any difference, because money isn't the solution now. It doesn't matter how much money you've got. It doesn't matter if you're a multi-billionaire right now. I mean, sure, $1 billion or two will it'll buy you some time, but it won't save you from this new agenda. It just won't. And actually, it never would have done. I think what's happening, which is quite useful, is that the whole COVID mythology and reality, I'm not saying there's no reality to it, but Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. Just because there is a certain amount of ridiculousness about the COVID, and it is a what's it called? It's an accounting procedure. It doesn't mean that there is nothing about it, that there is no truth to it. I'm sure there is some truth to it. And what's going on with the so-called climate thing, etc., and the whole bigger agenda that they're rolling out. In a way, it just makes more evident what was always the case. It didn't matter when you were alive. You were always going to die one day. You're always going to have to give an account one day. In what's happening here is that it's somehow being polarized. It's quite clear that the satanic system is mirroring, it's aping God's system. That God, and it says here, a writ inscribed. For Illiyyun, a writ inscribed, and Sijjin, a writ inscribed. Well, a writ inscribed, this is a written record that doesn't go away. Well, this whole thing about a written record that doesn't go away, I mean, look at the blockchain. Can you see what they're doing? They're trying to parallel the qualities and attributes of God in a kind of scientific methodology, a surveillance system that is pretty much, omniscient. The shaitan is promising their people to, and one of the things I've learned about the shaitan and satanic system is it always turns around and bilks you at the last moment, or maybe not the last moment, but once you think you've got what you wanted, he'll turn around and he'll dump you. There's a really good interview, if you look it up, with Robert Zimmerman. I can't remember what's his name. Bob Dylan. There's a really good interview, or interesting interview with him being interviewed by this chap, and you can see that Bob Dylan sold his soul to the devil, literally. At one point, he calls him the commander, or the chief commander, the chief, the commander, I think it is in this. But you can see that he's at the end of his life now, and he's full of regrets. Yeah, he had, he wine, women, and song, and fame, and all the rest of it. They gave the guy a Nobel Prize for literature. Now, did Bob Dylan write some good stuff? I suppose so, but if you see him being interviewed in different times of his life, they keep trying to get to the secret of what he's trying to say in his songs, and he keeps trying to tell them, I don't know, I just get the song and I write it and that's it. He's being fed these songs by what used to be called the muses. So he's got no idea where they come from. But the thing is, they can turn it on and turn it off, and it's been turned off in his career. He hasn't written anything really very good for most of my life, but he's still getting by on what he wrote in 1973. So can you imagine how insecure that must make you feel, to be fated all the time for something that you really, he doesn't really know. And he does try to give him his due. He's a very bright guy, and he does try to explain it, but they don't hear it. They want the answer to be something else, so they won't really accept it. And he was given the Nobel Prize for Literature. He was embarrassed by this. It must be terrible. You see it sometimes. Just kind of another aside. You see it occasionally with actors, especially more intelligent actors. There are a few. You can see that they've made a deal at some point in their career, because you don't get to be like an actor, like a big name actor, just for that. And then it's very Faustian. They get trapped in this. This is the only way they can make money. I mean, to be honest, being an actor, in some ways, it's kind of a humiliating sort of career. I mean, you, in the sense that you don't really say anything that you wrote. Nobody cares about you. You're just a talking head. That's it. And I think after a bit of fame and a bit of this and a bit of that, a lot of actors get really sick of it, and they want to kind of branch out into something where they can feel, because they're not lacking in vanity. They want to feel that they are important somehow, and they try their hand at this, and they try their hand at being a photographer or being a director. That's usually fatal, and various other things, or a writer, and it doesn't work, and they're trapped. As a famous actor, that's it. That's what they're going to have for the rest of their life. People being really, really nice to them about something they feel totally ashamed of. This is how the shaitan works. It's a thing of beauty in a way, but don't get caught up in it. Because what you want, if you want the best, you want bliss. They will be given to drink of a wine sealed, whose seal is musk, and for that let aspire those who aspire. If you want the good things, then this is what to go for, even though it says, and it says here, when our proofs are recited to him, he says, legends of the former peoples. Well, is death a legend of the former peoples? I mean, last time I checked, everyone died at some point or other. I mean, I know Christians make various claims, but they can't be proven. So, I mean, it seems to me that nothing has changed under the sun to sort of weave in Ecclesiastes. And it doesn't matter how high-tech it all gets. It doesn't matter how ubiquitous and all-encompassing their system of tyranny gets. Nothing has changed. And if nothing has changed, then the promises of God remain true. And if the promises of God remain true, then what I call the God protocol remains true. And if that remains true, there's nothing they can do. That they're stuffed. And I think myself that mankind's been given a time to choose, and I think that this period of time is actually good, because it's waking people up out of their suburban sleep to make a choice, and that is a good thing in my opinion. And those who were lawbreakers laughed at those who heeded warning, and when they passed by them they winked at one another, and when they returned to their people they returned delighting, and when they saw them they said, these have gone astray. Isn't that the truth? Ah man, Sammy follows the Qur'an. Oh crikey. Well, my question is, what have you got? What do you have? Let's see it. Let's see this big evidence that you have. They don't have it. They don't have anything. They've got some mythologies that they can't prove. They've got some what they call science, endlessly changing, that they also can't prove and don't understand. What have you got? Let me see it. If you can show me something better than this, I will follow it. And the Qur'an itself says that. But I've been looking. I haven't seen it. To continue. But they were not sent as custodians over them. And this day those who heed warning laugh at the atheists. Well, we have a saying in English, he who laughs last laughs loudest, or longest, whichever it is. You know, there's going to be a day of reckoning. Just choose which side of this line you want to be on. Upon couches looking on. And we had this above. The virtuous will be in bliss upon couches looking on, which is what is Illiyyun, a writ inscribed, to which bear witness those brought near. And what does it say? It says, the virtuous will be in bliss upon couches looking on. And if we go back to this, and this day those who heed warning laugh at the atheists upon couches looking on. Are not the atheists requited for what they did? So there is a reckoning. So they don't get away with it. So it doesn't matter what their theology and what their mythology is, they're going to have to give account. Doesn't matter what they've been told, doesn't matter what the local lodges told them, or what Plato said, or anything else. There is a day of reckoning. They are going to have to answer for what they did. Now, again, just in closing, I've got nothing against there being a ruling elite. It is totally natural for there to be one. But like anyone else, they have rights, but they have responsibilities. And what they're doing now is failing totally in their responsibilities. They've gone off the plantation. They've basically aligned themselves with an agenda, which means that they're going to bilk everybody who did all the work. So that's where we are with that. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope to make another one of these videos in the next couple of days. I want to get through these remaining 20, 30, whatever it is, videos of the surahs between 50 and 114. I hope everyone is well, and that's all for now. If you're listening on YouTube, you can download my full translation of the Qur'an and all other work free using the button in the top right-hand corner, or buy the hard copy there at 10% less than on Amazon. You can download the audio from my YouTube videos to your mobile device using the links in the drop-down below. I recommend meetquranites.com to connect with other Qur'an-alone believers. Like if you like, comment if you have something constructive to say, and subscribe to get more each week. And use the link in the drop down below to donate if you would like to help me keep doing this. And remember, this life is short, eternity is long. If you want good trees, plant good seeds.